Kenya.
And we are here with our host,
Evie!
Yes!
My name is Evie. I am 28 years old and I'm from the Bronx and I am a true-blooded Capricorn.
put out like the whole profile
I
there.
like it.
And,
You know,
warm
just-
walks
she
on
like-
the
yeah, I was gonna
train
say that.
I like watery beer, you know.
But we are here with Evie and we want to talk about a couple of things. Most importantly, we are here to talk about trans lives. So Evie, if you want to kind of kick us off with a little background of your story.
Absolutely. So I am a woman of trans experience, a trans woman. A lot of the time, people have different identities in terms of like the trans spectrum. But I refer to myself as a woman of trans experience because I am a woman first going through a trans experience. So I started my transition very, very young. I started at around the age of 16. I kept it a secret for most of the time from my family, but from my friends, they all knew what I was going through. I started off taking hormones on the black market, so meaning that, because I wasn't able to consent for hormones at a doctor's office yet. Yeah.
Really?
A lot of the times young trans women go to the black market for hormones because, you know, we don't have that support from our family, right? So a lot of young trans women, we take it upon ourselves to go through the transition by ourselves. So I remember taking black market hormones from a friend of mine who introduced me to a website that sold them, and we kind of got hormones from there, me and her. And we decided to, she transitioned before me, but she helped me in my transition when I was going through it. I transitioned physically when I started college. So what that means is that even though I was taking hormones, I was still presenting as male. I still was wearing men clothing and things of that nature until I got to a certain independence where I was able to dress how I was supposed to dress in female clothing and things of that nature, and kind of assimilate to the female gender role in society.
It's probably easier to in college, you think, because there's a lot more people are open-minded, I would think. Or did you find it just as difficult?
Yeah, I think college doesn't distinguish against transphobia. Just because people are in college doesn't mean that they're mature enough to take care of that or understand that kind of identity. For me, it was a little bit of a struggle in college because I didn't have kind of like the community backing me up. It was literally me living stealth. So what that means was I wasn't telling people that I was trans. I was just telling people that, hey, my name is Evie, this is who I am. I'm not going to tell you who I really am, though. I'm not going to share with that kind of secret with you because I was still a little bit scared, you know?
Right.
It's still a scary kind of thing to disclose to people that you're trans because people have all these misconceptions of trans women, and it's kind of hard navigating through that. So in college, I was alone. I didn't really have a lot of like friends that knew about it until I told my Sikh counselor. I was a Sikh student, and she referred me to the LGBT group at college, and from there, I just started to build communities with them. So in a sense, I gained a lot of friends in college, but it was still kind of hard to maneuver myself within that aspect.
How did your family feel about you finding out this information?
So with my family, I'm Puerto Rican, so surprise! Yes, light-skinned blonde girl is a Puerto Rican.
I come in all shades.
All shades. I just look more like the oppressor. But my family, it was kind of tough because my family wanted me to be this gay man, right? But that wasn't who I was. So they understood me being an effeminate gay male. They just didn't understand why I wanted to change my body to become the woman that I am. And it was a lot of battles back and forth, necessarily with my sisters specifically. Shout out to Sia. But it was a lot of back and forth because they didn't understand, and I was trying to help them understand. But, you know, living in a family of color, it's really difficult because a lot of the times religion plays a role in these kind of conversations, and that kind of like downplays our experience, you know? So it was really difficult.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I got into a huge family fight when I changed my name legally. So I changed my name legally at the age of, I believe, 19, because I was able to do that because I was legal. And I didn't tell them what I was doing. And then my name was officially changed in the system by my 20th birthday because, you know, seeing lawyers and stuff like that. But I was able to find that resource because there was organizations like TILDEF, which is Transgender Legal Defense Education Forum, that was able to hook me up with a pro bono lawyer to help me with my name change. I remember me being really excited about it, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna tell my family because this is so exciting for me. I don't think that they're gonna have a problem with it because I'm already older now. Like, this is like, you know, and I didn't change my family name either. I'm still, my last name is still Arroyo. So, and I kind of didn't want to change that because I wanted to respect the family like name. I didn't want to change anything about it. And it kind of flowed with my name now. So I remember sitting down with them and telling them about it, and you know, they just did not like it. It was a really tough time for me because one of my sisters was dating a white lawyer, and he was very transphobic. And when I told my family that this is the name that I want to go by, and I even posted it on social media on Facebook, like, hey, this was my name when I was born, this is my name now, I would like everybody to respect the transition to this name. He went off on me. And when I mean by off on me, he commented on my statuses about that and how like I'm delusional and you know, I'm not, you know, kind of dehumanizing me in a way because I didn't do anything to him. I'm just living. But he had such a big issue with it that he even told my sister, he even told other people that this is what it is, that I'm delusional, I have schizophrenia, and I need to seek help and treatment for it. And I was just like, whoa. But my friends on social media got my back.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's right.
Friends.
That's right. That's right. So my friends went off back on him and defended me and was like, what's wrong with you? This is a person that's telling you that they're this way. And as a lawyer, this is a whole violation of your bar certification.
Yeah.
It is.
Which is so scary because we do have people like that as doctors and lawyers. And you know, we're looking to them to like serve and protect or just have our backs in these things. And we don't know that they're secretly racist or homophobic or transphobic. And it's just, you know, and that's what's scary.
Trans women, we get it done by ourselves. Like it's hard for us to ask for help because people have been saying no to our existence forever. Once that happened, my family got upset because my friends was attacking him on Facebook. And in a Puerto Rican family, if somebody's dating you, they're considered family.
Yeah.
Regardless.
Or even like they say husband, I noticed.
Like my husband, and there's no rings, there's no
I don't see none of that.
Yeah.
So I remember getting into a huge argument because they wanted me to apologize to him. And I said, absolutely not. I'm not apologizing to a transphobic white man. I'm not apologizing. And I got into a physical altercation with my sister that day, and I remember taking the last bit of money that I had for my birthday money, I packed my bags and I left. I never looked back. Like, I was in the transitional living programs for 3 years of my life after that. I lived in Brooklyn. You know, I kind of learned a lot of street stuff, you know, things that nature to survive. I'm not upset that that happened to me necessarily, but it made me, you know, I always say to myself, how would my life would have been if my family wholeheartedly supported me, you know? And I never had to leave my house because of a hostile environment. You know what I mean? Now, me and my family are in better terms. And, you know, even to this day, my sisters say to me, like, we regret letting him do that to you. And we regret not standing up for you. Because I know your life would have been different had you stayed with mommy, had you had that support at home. And I was like, it's about time. You know, like I was waiting for that closure because I did nothing wrong. I was just existing.
Yeah.
I wasn't hurting them. I don't hurt other people. I don't wish badly upon other people. Neither does my trans sisters. We are just here existing. And people get so angry about that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I didn't even do anything to you.
It's hard for me to understand like why it bothers them so much. If you don't live this life, you don't have to make these choices. It's not who you are. So why does it bother you so much? I can't wrap my head around that still.
Yeah, and it's the worst when it's by your own people, right?
Yeah.
So people of color, Black people. It's the worst because we are kind of all minorities in this world of white supremacy. So, you know, that's kind of like when Black Lives Matter came out. I was a very big, like, avid protester of Black Lives Matter. But when, you know, a lot of Black trans women was being murdered, Black Lives Matter, I know that they didn't really kind of integrated that experience there. And I'm just like, well, they're Black first, you know what I mean?
Right.
Regardless of the trans experience.
Right.
Nowadays, I tell people, I don't care how you look at me or us, we're human. And we deserve every amount of respect out there. I love when they play the religious role.
I can go on and on about that.
I love it. I love it
It's
because,
hard.
yeah, it's hard.
To
And
have a debate and discussion, especially when they fall back on that and you're like, you're not listening to me. Like,
That's not my religion. Like, religion is a choice.
Yeah.
Like, you choose.
and not only that, like in religion, you know, white people use religion to enslave our ancestors. So to then, we've been so oppressed in the religious concept that we are now oppressing our own and saying that God is doing these things and God is saying these things. When this is what the white man has been doing to our ancestors for a long time.
The brainwashing is real.
It's so real. And it's really saddening because I always laugh when people try to use religion to justify their transphobia. Because I'm just like, okay, so the same religion that enslaved your ancestors, that enslaved, you know, your people, you're going to use that same religion to further oppress your own people? Imagine if we just band together and take down the patriarchy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we could do so much work if we put our phobias aside and we kind of looked at each other as human beings.
But you did touch upon that your family and your community was more wanting to see you as a gay man versus a trans woman. And I know we've had conversations about inner conflict.
Absolutely.
So can you speak about maybe that part first, of why, like, that acceptance of being more a gay man versus being a trans, and then what are the things in the trans community that people outside of it are not aware of?
Yeah, I think this world is very misogynistic at one point. Not at one point, all the time.
Every angle. Take out my life.
Very misogynistic. So I think that stems from it. So when we talk about misogyny, we talk about the hatred of women, the hatred of femininity. So when I transitioned, I lost my male privilege. That went out the door. And I don't think that people, you know, it's okay for, you know, I always see that when a woman is masculine, she's celebrated as being different. When a man is feminine, it's an abomination, it's a problem. When really you're saying that being feminine is weak and being feminine is not respectable with masculinity. And within the community, a lot of gay men tend to become transphobic as well. They are adapting to society's way of telling us that misogyny is here and misogyny is real.
Yeah, and I see that also. So I identify as pansexual, and the women I have dated have leaned more towards masculine traits, but in those relationships, they took on the toxic masculinity as well. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, what are you doing? You're just... I felt like they were just portraying characteristics that they thought that's what it means to be a man in this relationship. And we're doing the same things and being abusive and verbally abusive, and you know, and that's sad. But like, I think that just speaks to like how we're taught like this is what it means to be a man and to be strong.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of gay men don't see the validity of trans women's womanhood.
Right.
So a lot of the time, even women, cis women, don't see the womanhood in us. But a lot of the times, the biggest argument is the power of reproduction, right? So whenever somebody argues with me that I'm not a woman because I can't reproduce, I always think to my head that that's a patriarchal way of viewing womanhood, right? Because there's cis women out there who cannot reproduce.
Right.
And to me, it hurts when women say that, because I think about those women as well. The women that fight to have a baby. And, you know, it really hurts that patriarchy has showed us that women who can't give birth are not women. And womanhood is so much more than being able to reproduce. So much more.
I've been watching Pose, and I love it.
Oh, yeah.
Don't ruin it for me.
Oh, you want to watch it?
I'm catching it after the second
Lord, I
season.
need to
so
talk to
binge.
someone about Pose. I mean, we watch it, and it's like our favorite show in the household right now. But I learned that one of the actresses who plays Angel, I think her name is India
Moore.
She's half Dominican.
She is.
Is she from the Bronx? Because I feel
You get Bronx vibes. She gets
Yeah.
Bronx vibes. She gets Bronx attitude. Her
Yeah, I think she is from the Bronx.
We'll find out.
We'll find out in
Yeah,
India.
yeah. I think I
love
just
her.
recently visit, and I want to fact check this, but I recently visit her Instagram, and she considers herself non-binary. So I have to check to see if her pronouns is she and her.
Yeah. Right. I think her pronouns are they and them.
They and them. Okay. So I just again, when you watch a character, you begin to like, oh, I love that, love this character, and I'm like, she's she and her on the show. But yeah, so it opens my minds, because I'm like, oh, there's just so many. We're just not all like one thing in this community. You can be trans and non-binary.
Absolutely. And even me, I had to understand that and know that even though my womanhood is completely different than in India's, trans women can be non-binary. There's more than one gender. Some days I do like to fit into the binary role of a woman. Some days I don't. Gender is very fluid. The male and female gender really came from capitalism and came from a lot of, I'm gonna say it, white supremacy, because this is what they told us. And this is not how our ancestors lived back then. Right. Gender was a spectrum. Gender is fluid, just like sexuality is. And I think that should be celebrated always, you know? Even though I don't go by they and them, a trans woman can go by that. And she is completely valid of how she lives, or they live, And for me, I'm still learning that the non-binary traits and things of that nature. And, you always have to check your ignorance, always.
Absolutely.
I always check my ignorance all the time.
Yes.
Because if I don't understand something, I'm not going to make an assumption of what I understand about it.
Right.
I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to try to find the common ground between us.
Right, because I think we're about the same age, and even like growing up, this is also very new to me. So I'm like, this wasn't discussed, especially non-binary was not discussed, at least when I was a teenager. So it's just a lot to learn. But.
Yeah, like when I was growing up and I was transitioning, I didn't understand gender non-conforming individuals until I had more friends that was gender non-conforming, and how they live their lives not thinking of feminine and masculine through objectified or materialistic things. They're so much more than that. It's so much more of an entity.
For a while, I felt I was bisexual, but I never felt like that really fits how I looked at people. So I think once I found out and learned about pansexuality, it was like, oh, this makes more sense. And it was because, like, when I look at a person, I don't really see genitalia or gender as a factor in what I like. It's just be people. Like, that's it. And that's how I came to, identify as pansexual, because I felt like it was more fitting to that.
Yeah.
But then I hear people who do consider themselves bisexual say this, well, I feel like bisexuality says the same thing. So it's like, different people have their own definition of meanings, and like it's just really up to what fits for you.
Life is relative to the person that's living it.
Yeah.
Always. And I think there's a lot of trans women that do identify as pansexual, bisexual, lesbian, because gender is completely different than sexuality.
Right.
A lot of the times people ask me, oh, why would you transition to date women? And I'm just like, well, because the I am part isn't who I sleep with.
Right.
You know what I mean? I am a woman. I'm attracted to women. It's two different things. And you know, pansexuality was brought up to me when I was going to nonprofit organizations and LGBT organizations that had groups about it, because I wanted to expand who I was, because I felt like living that binary role of female can get boring.
Yeah.
It really can get boring. It really is. Like, and I'm a woman. I feel I am a woman, but you know, I want to be masculine too.
Yeah.
You know, I would like to be extra feminine too, or not even like the two. I can just be the middle part, or
just be.
Yeah.
Just be.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I just think that a lot of the LGBT community has a lot of learning, a lot of healing that we need to go through in order to escape the reality of patriarchy, of society's norms of what a male and a female is, these two boxes. When just get rid of the boxes, let's just live, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and then earlier you were talking about like culture and religion. So I also dated a gay man, but he was fluid. So then he was from Jamaica. He would never tell his dad that. So for a while, you know, we kind of kept up the like, you know, he's just a straight cisgender male. But like even when years later when I tried to explain that to my mom, like it went completely over her head. She was like, no, well he wasn't gay if he was dating you. And I'm like, no, he was gay, he likes men, but he was fluid and it worked for us. So I mean, it's just like, you know, coming from a family of color and trying to explain that, I feel like I have to come out to my mom every month. Like she still doesn't get what pansexual is. So do you feel like you're constantly having to educate your family?
Absolutely. Every single day I'm constantly educating my family about the trans experience, because a lot of the time when trans women transitioned, you know, even trans women in itself, we come into arguments with each other about who's more passable and who's less passable in society, who's going to blend in, when that's still assimilating to society's roles about what a woman should look like. Yeah. And it's like, well, what does a woman look like? You know what I mean?
That's true.
But that's relative to your experience.
Right.
And, you know, constantly educating people can get tiring sometimes. And that's why I do say that self-care is very important when transitioning. But my responsibility isn't always to keep on educating. Now you have to take it upon yourself to educate yourself and learn by yourself.
I mean, Google is there, you know, the information. If you want to learn, all you have to do is just type it.
Not only that, like even like LGBT films, right? Like so Pose FX, I think does a really good job in explaining those kind of spectrums and explaining how we still have inner turmoil in our community. Yeah. And how this is all just an experience to heal. We have to heal from the generational trauma that has been brought upon us, always.
Yeah. That's why I want to delve more into the show. We'll do another.
I watched all of season 1. We could talk about the bar scene. That was bullshit.
You know what was funny? It was the season 1 with when they went to the bar.
When they went to the gay bar, like we don't watch. I was like, I wish you would come for her again.
So this is the interesting points that you've seen that one. My mom calls me, so how I educate her is to try to little by little, because I do respect her religion, and like it was a religion I was brought up in, so there is an amount of respect for her. So I try to get her onto these shows. So she's watching it now, and she calls me, and she's like, "But I don't get it. They're gay. Why were they kicked out of a gay bar?" She's like, "It really didn't make sense." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. This is a learning and teaching moment."
In this world, a drag queen is much more respected than a trans woman.
Yes.
Period.
Yeah.
Period. RuPaul's Drag Race is more respected than Pose.
Yeah.
And explain to people why, because I feel like people will take you to be like, "Oh, she's throwing shade at RuPaul." No,
yeah, I'm not throwing shade. There's a reason why. It's because I love drag queens. Yes. I'm a trans woman that loves drag. I love going to drag shows. I love supporting drag queens. Trans women can be drag queens as well. But I think what it is that when a drag queen gets out of drag, there's still that male privilege. There's still that male entity. We don't throw that away. Right. We're women. So I'm gonna look like this 24/7.
Right.
There's no taking off of breastplates or hip pads or wigs.
Right.
Like, this is my life. So I think a lot of the times we don't want to go to that extreme. Mm-hmm. We always want to go to, okay, I understand this because, again, drag is taking off that drag and still becoming a man. It's just another reason as to why this society is misogynistic. Right. Because people don't want to see the validity in our womanhood. When seeing that validity does nothing bad for you. Mm-hmm. Seeing me and telling me that I'm a woman and you see me as a woman does nothing for me and does nothing for you. But I think what it is a respect thing, right? It's really difficult to get into it because I've had a lot of arguments with gay men about this kind of topic because I don't understand where that hatred comes from. Especially like the gay men that are in my lives, they know and they check it right at the door. Right. Even with other gay men. So surrounding yourself with those people is very important.
Yeah. And just a couple of days ago, I seen a thread from a trans woman who said that I feel like after the watching Pose that trans women, we don't need to be a part of the LGBT community.
Ooh.
And
so spicy there.
Yeah. And there was other, trans women who jumped in the thread and was like, I've been thinking the same thing. And then I thought maybe you could.
What are your thoughts?
Sure, my thought, like that's a very deep conversation.
And where did that come from?
It comes from the sense that a lot of the times the LGBT community does not see it for us. So like they do not see us in the same sense as them. A lot of the time, even in the ballroom scene, gay men are still completely transphobic to trans women. And, trans women started Stonewall riots. We started this LGBT civil rights. We should be respected as the queens and goddesses that we are. So I've had many conversations around this topic, and I think for me, I'm still 50-50. Do I believe that the trans community should separate from the LGBT community? No, because in a sense, we are still minority, we're still different. But yes, because LGB is much more so for sexuality. Gender is the T. That is completely different. Yeah. So I can see where that side comes from, and I can see where the other side comes from. But I think in both sense, it comes from the trauma that we've experienced by being isolated within our own community.
Yeah.
So where, for someone, because obviously we're here based in New York, so I would say we have the privilege of having a little bit more resources, but for someone that is maybe not sure, maybe kind of in thought of just who and what they are within the understanding of this complex world, how would you, or what step would you say like they should take in understanding themselves? No, that's a heavy question, right?
No, that's not, because I've spoke to many trans women, young trans women about it, and young trans men as well, right? I never want to forget my brothers, right? I think when you're feeling like that and you're feeling like your identity is completely different than the norm, I think it's important to talk to people about it. And not talk to everyone about it, talk to the people that matter. The people that will love you wholeheartedly regardless of what decision you make. A lot of the times I always tell trans women, if you want happiness, you have to jump. You have to jump in fear. Like, I know it's scary, but you have to jump in faith, in good faith that everything is going to work out. I've lost a lot of friends from transitioning that didn't understand me and just didn't want to be a part of that experience. And that's okay. But cling on to the people that you love. Build a support system for yourself. Because if you don't have a support system, you're going to be out here surviving by yourself. And that in itself is very difficult. Can you do it? Hell yeah. I've seen many trans women do it by themselves. But being so young and impressionable, like, you should always have a support system around you.
Yeah.
For people that don't know, I met Evie about 3 years ago, I think.
It was 4, I think.
4? No, it was 3, because I've been here 5 years.
Okay, so then 3.
So 3 years ago.
I just want to know you more.
I met Evie through our godfather. We are in the Yoruba religion of Santeria. For those that don't know, we will have another episode about that. But I wanted to know, because we did talk about religion and we talked about obviously our culture and within I'll put it out there, the Caribbean, those that were conquered by the Spaniards, those that were conquered by Spaniards and Europeans, let's just say Europeans, right?
Yeah.
Were all products of some type of Catholicism, Christianity, and I wanted to know what your experience has been finding your faith and finding your or identifying in your identification as a trans woman.
Yeah.
How that makes sense.
I think going back to the previous question about support, I think that religion and spirituality is something that is also self-care and is important to trans women. And I think that when people instill the fear of God in us, I don't think that we should run away from God. Or whatever religion you are seeking, right? So I always tell people I'm religious and spiritual because Catholicism did hammer us about our identity, but I always thought about it as the people of flesh. So what I mean is that I don't think that religion is bad. I think that people make religion bad.
Yeah, absolutely.
And religion has helped so many other people seeking refuge, seeking identity, seeking a purpose. And I don't think that we should lose that. A lot of the time people say, oh, I'm spiritual, not religious. What does that mean? Because spirituality is still a part of religion. And I think that for trans women, for me specifically, I had to identify with the religion that was going to help heal me and heal all of the trauma that I've been going through. And for me, the church wasn't a good place because it wasn't about the church not being a good place. It was the people in the church not making it a good place. God accepts me. If I go to a church, he's going to be like, yes, I see you. How are you doing, my child? Like, that's what I wholeheartely believe. And I don't think that people understand that. I think that people of flesh is saying that, and people are like, well, I don't want to go with the Catholicism. I don't want to go to Christianity. I don't want to go to any of these traditional religions because they're so phobic. But in a sense, it's people, the teachings of people that are phobic, not God, not whoever you believe in. Because whatever you believe in is love. Love is the most substance of these religions. And I think for me, maneuvering myself in the churches, I didn't feel welcomed. And it wasn't because of God, it was because of people. And when we found Padrino, when I found my godfather, you know, I was looking at other traditional religions and other spiritualities. And I don't think that we should turn our backs on religion because people have told us to do that. Because at the end of the day, God did not want all this shit happening. God did not want people to be enslaved. God did not want this to happen. And I think that people of flesh or evil people have been doing that. So like, there's evil Catholics, there's good Catholics, there's evil Christians, there's good Christians, there's evil Muslims, there's good Muslims.
There's definitely shady ass.
It's the product
out there.
There's shady santeras, there's shady,
and there's some good ones.
and there's some good ones. Find your salvation with your people. Don't look towards that route, and don't let it scare you. You know, I do believe that somebody can be religious and not spiritual, and vice versa. But it's so much more passion when you have both in your hands.
And you know, that's quite a journey for people who experience that, because I do remember thinking when I started to find attraction to other women that I was going to hell, because I was raised in a Pentecostal church, and you know Pentecostal churches.
Ooh,
yes, I went to one.
Ready, y'all.
I went to two, one in Spanish and one in English.
God,
so you know, when you're raised in that kind of like hell and fiery brimstone type of teachings, I remember being a little girl, probably 10 or whatever, and I kissed this girl, and I was like, I'm going to hell, and the devil, like all the teachings that they taught me, and then I had insomnia for a while because I thought I was wrong, and depression followed. So even coming into a teenager and adult, I had realized, even into my adulthood, like a lot of my hang-ups about sex and sexuality came from this experience when I was little and feeling like I was evil and I was full of sin. So when you say it's like, but I there's still a love I have for God and for what I believe, it's just it's there, but it's like finding, okay, where do I find that home?
Yeah,
for me.
It's finding home within
Yeah.
salvation. It's finding the good people.
Now, we had a conversation about things that people feel like they can ask you once they know. So what is, I guess, the proper etiquette? Because obviously people don't got it nowadays. So what is the proper etiquette in terms of when you are having these discussions and there are people that are not trans or LGBTQ and they just want to like...
Absolutely. I think it's funny because whenever somebody asks me this question, I always say, well, it's the same as talking to a regular person that's not trans. You're not going to tell a non-trans person about their genitalia, right? You're not going to sit down. I'm not going to sit down with you and say, oh, how's your vagina? Like, we're not, or like, what, your breasts are so big. Like, what implant? Have you got implants? Have you got surgeries? I think you should feel the person out, right? Get to know them, just like you would a regular person. A lot of the times people think that there's this guideline. There's no guideline to being a respectable human being. You're not gonna come up to me and talk about my genitalia when you know nothing about me. So that's one. The second one is that I am very flamboyant.
She is, y'all. This is the down version of
This is the down version.
I don't know my sister.
I'm very flamboyant. I think that women can be flamboyant and there's nothing wrong with it. But I think if you see a trans person out in the street or you see someone next to you, don't do the yes, queen slay, like yes, girl, like don't do that because we don't know you yet. You know, until you figure us out and you get that kind of rapport with us, and we give it to you and you reciprocate, that's when you do it. Just like a regular person. I'm not gonna go up to you and like, you know, try to.
Mamacita.
Like, you're just like,
okay.
you know, so that's not cool. So we're not aliens. We're humans. Get to know us. Say hi. How you doing? I'm good. How are you? And then once we start getting comfortable with you, then you kind of reciprocate that energy.
Right.
It's all an energy flow. If you have too much high energy and we're like here, you're not matching me.
Right. And then what about in terms of dating? I've often
girl.
very.
I didn't want to bring it up. You see, I didn't even bring up the dating aspect.
This is something I've also seen discussed and it's very controversial. How much do you disclose or share? Do you think you even need to share anything? Because I've seen both arguments about it. Like I've seen both too. I've seen those who say I don't have to say anything, and those who say no, I'm proud and I don't mind. So I want to know your thoughts.
I mean, again, my experiences are different from another trans woman. So if any trans woman is seeing this, don't be like, oh no, like this is my experience. I think that you should disclose for safety only, right? It's hard. There's no manual for disclosure. I don't know. I've done experiments on it too. I've done 3-day limits. I've done 2-date limits. It's the same. And I think you should only disclose for safety. And you know, a lot of the time the argument is that, well, if you don't tell us, if you don't tell the person that you're dating, then you're not giving them a chance to see the real you. You're not giving them the option of saying yes or no. And I think that that's not only to our experience, that's also to cis relationships too, right? If there's a deal breaker, you want to know about the deal breaker first, right? Not saying that my identity is a deal breaker, but it's very tricky. So I only disclose for safety. Am I physically contacting them? Am I like kissing or anything like that before they know? Absolutely not. And the reason why is because it's for safety. It's not because I owe you anything. It's not because of anything like that. It's for safety, because a lot of the time, trans women are not out here tricking nobody. Like that's the propaganda. And that's how propaganda works. When you see articles of our deaths, a lot of the time people are like, well, they probably didn't tell them. We told them. There's no tricking out here. Like, I didn't spend 10 plus years of my life to transition to trick you. Haha! Like, don't flatter yourself.
Right.
You should always disclose for safety, because a lot of the times, a lot of people can get aggressive, and you don't want that. That's the last thing you want. That's the last thing you deserve. You deserve a partner that's gonna love you wholeheartedly. which is why I disclose myself in all my dating apps. I make sure they know from the gate, because at the end of the day, I'm not here to hide from you. I'm not here to hide from you. I'm not scared of you. What I want is the same respect that you give to anybody. And for the people that are trans attractive, you shouldn't be scared to date us either, right? Like, because you're in the presence of people who have been fighting liberation for decades. So you should feel strong that you are dating a trans person, because we are liberation. We are strong. Trans people are becoming more out there, right? It's getting educated. We have Laverne, we have a lot of beautiful actresses on screen now. So
and behind the cameras
too, Janet Mock, you know. So I don't think that dating is very tricky for trans people, and I really wish that one day we can normalize it, right? So one day we can say, okay, so you're a trans person. All right, cool. That's no problem. I'm not attracted to a trans woman, but you know, that's a very respectful response. Not, oh my God, you're a man. Da 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 da. Like, whoa, buddy.
You're an asshole.
Like, don't play, because a lot of y'all keep playing until a trans woman snuffs you in your mouth. Then it's gonna have a problem.
Saying that we believe in physical assault, but we don't believe in defending ourselves.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
You don't think girls ain't gonna defend us? We all defending ourselves.
We all defending ourselves. Absolutely.
And a lot of the attacks from the stories I've learned have been from these cisgender males who, you know, they're attracted, they may even go through a sexual experience, and then afterwards harm or murder, because then it's their own insecurity in themselves and
their male ego.
Their own male ego, and they're taking it out
on us, on our bodies. And then then when they talk about and I feel bad, because men who go through that don't have that support to talk about those attractions, right? Because if you talk about it with your homeboy's gonna be like, so you gay? And it's like, you shouldn't allow anybody to identify you. You should feel proud to be identified however you want to identify. Don't allow anybody to self-identify you.
And imagine just once it's normalized, and when we get there, how many lives would be saved, and just, you know, a lot of these things could be avoided, because like you said, it does really, like, it is so good to see it from the other side and see, you know what, they probably never had an environment where they could express their feelings.
Absolutely.
And so then these trickle on into these situations, unfortunately. And you know, to quote Miss Electra from Pose FX, they don't kill us because because they hate us. They kill us because of how much they love us. That's what it is. Yeah, that was
because that was so powerful. Because it's true.
Watch it. Watch it.
We can talk about it.
Oh my God, I'm waiting for it to face like a bitch.
I know, we were in this house. There was been some tears in this house from these.
Oh my God, the second season was immaculate. It was so good, so good writing. I think that within that quote, you know, a lot of the times people, like, again, the tricking propaganda. We're not tricking anybody. Most of the time, the men that kill us are people who've dealt with us, people who have had sex with us, people who laid in our bed, people who came over to our house to fuck us. Excuse my language. Okay, good. They hate the fact that they're so attracted to us. So how do we get rid of that shame? Unfortunately, they take it upon themselves to kill us. And it's really scary dating. I'm like, you could tell my sister I'm on a 3-year hiatus, because it's been so intense. It's been so intense, and it's just so scary to disclose myself to people because of the reactions. And because I always say, when trans women are out in the public, it's like a double-edged sword. I'm happy that we're getting exposure, but too much exposure, people are not liking it.
Which is not fair. I'm a firm believer that, you know, love who you love and be who you be. Like, it doesn't. You don't have to. Hey, you don't want to date a trans person. You don't have to. Like,
you don't have to.
I don't need to date you. You don't need to date me. There's other fishes in the sea, bro.
And
other fish.
And if you don't want to date me, that's not you being transphobic either. That means the trend is not attracted to me, and that's okay. Because I'm not attracted to every guy.
I think there was a story that someone recently committed suicide because he was being bullied for dating someone, a trans woman. Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, I heard about the story too, and I don't want to talk about it because it's not my experience.
Right.
But that person that killed themselves, they were going through more than just that.
Oh, okay.
It was more than just like dating us is like it was more than that.
Got it.
And I don't want to give that narrative out because then it's like people who date us are weak.
No, not at all.
Absolutely not.
But see how easy that like narrative could spread.
Right.
I saw the headline, I read it, and I'm like,
I read it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times, like, I don't want that narrative to get out there because, again, it doesn't normalize dating us.
Right.
It doesn't normalize it. And I'm always trying to like, like, I hate that word, too, because what is normal?
What is normal?
But to me, it's about having a better response to things. There's a lot of work we have to do, and it starts within ourselves. Because a lot of the times I see trans women attacking each other and having these horrible ideas of what womanhood is. Let's change that because people are already attacking us. Why not band together? That's what I want to see with the trans community. I want to see other identities within the trans community be celebrated. I want people to understand each other. And I just want us to be much more out there. So like I want to see more actresses. I want to see more directors. I want to see more writers. I want to see more animes specific to, or cartoons specific to trans women. I want to see more shows about trans women. I want to see, like, for instance, Euphoria. Did you see Euphoria?
No, but
It's on my to-do
that
list.
is on my to-do list too.
There's a trans character in Euphoria, and I love how the writers play her part because it's such, like, a lot of the times when trans characters are written in TV shows, it's all about the transition. When there's so much more to my life than just the transition. I'm a technical expert at the Apple store. So like, and I'm also other things too. I'm a video gamer. You know, like, I love anime. Like there's much more to my life. Like the trans, I always say trans is just 5% of me. There's a whole other side of me. There's other sides to me. You know, so I want that for the trans community. What I want for me, I'm still figuring that out.
Okay. And that's okay.
I'm still figuring that out.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's okay. I'm still figuring that out. Also, trans women, take care of your mental health. Don't allow dysphoria to be the only thing that's happening. Go see a therapist. It's so healthy to see a therapist. And, you know, to have a spiritual outlet.
Gotcha.
Love it.
All right, well, with that, we want to thank Evie here.
Thank you guys for having me.